All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to be in the 147 pounds division talking about Keith one-time Thurman, Errol Spence, and Terence Crawford, and had a recent conversation with a boxing expert that I know who made a very, very solid point that I don't think people are going to like necessarily about where Keith Thurman will stand as far as his legacy goes versus Terence Crawford with this fight that Keith will have with Errol Spence Jr. And how Keith Thurman will actually have the better legacy than Terence Crawford, something that many people would have thought was impossible just last year. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division where Keith one-time Thurman will be making a return to the ring against Errol Spence Jr. to fight the 3-belt holder for, my understanding is, no belts in a non-title fight at 154 pounds. This was a fight that was mandated by the WBC. The WBC does not have a problem, as far as what I heard from Mauricio Suleiman, with the mandatory fight being a non-title fight. So it should be announced sometime next week what they're going to do. Now, had a conversation with somebody that very knowledgeable person about boxing, doesn't like, I'm not going to put the name in here, but you will be able to hear what the thought process was, that with this fight, Keith Thurman actually will pass Terence Crawford in his career as far as his legacy in the sport will go. Now, before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are new to if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for your continued support for the channel. It really does make a lot of difference. Thank you for your support in the super chats and the cash apps that we do, in the live streams and the super thanks in videos like this. But let's get to this, all right? Because this is going to be a little bit of a controversial thing that I'm sure some people are going to disagree with. When it was presented to me, didn't really know what to make of it, but so I thought about it for a second. I was like, man, you know what? Kind of got a point there. And that is that with Errol Spence Jr. and Keith Thurman fighting, that when people say, who are the great welterweights in this, I guess, era of welterweights, which I would consider guys like Keith Thurman, or fighters really, but guys like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, at weight class above them, Jermell Charlo. Below them would be Vasily Lomachenko, right? I think it's fair to put Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury and those guys in this generation, this era of fighters. So Keith Thurman will be, when he fights Errol Spence Jr., what accomplishments will he have? And where Terence Crawford is in his career, what accomplishments, what things does he have? So when it was presented to me, they're like, hold on, man. Keith Thurman could pass up Terence Crawford with this Errol Spence Jr. fight, and to boot, doesn't really even have to win it. Really just needs to just put up a good fight against him. In some ways, Keith Thurman's legacy will really wind up being back intact. But if he wins the fight against Errol Spence Jr., which he is not favored to do, then without a doubt, he will pass up Terence Crawford as far as when people talk about the legacy of fighters and what they do as far as going to the Hall of Fame. And here was the argument. If you look at what Terence Crawford has done and the people that Terence Crawford has beaten, the opposition that he's beaten, you look at what the people that Terence Crawford has beaten, and you look at the people that Keith Thurman has beaten. Keith Thurman has beaten a better level of competition than Terence Crawford has, even though Terence Crawford has done it over a span of 3 weight classes. Now, and you have really the 135-pound division where he fought in that division, but doesn't really have a win that anybody would say is a notable win. I think that's fair. Now, he has the accomplishment of becoming the 135-pound champion. However, and then this guy pointed it to me. I was like, okay, well, what about that? He said, yeah, what about Adrian Broner? Adrian Broner also has that weight class, and people do not remember him. Hey, he's won championships in multiple divisions. People don't look at Adrian Broner and what Adrian Broner did at 135 against Antonio DeMarco. And really, Terence Crawford doesn't have a better win with him, with a Ricky Burns and a Ray Beltran than what Adrian Broner has. And then when you look at 140 pounds, also there's a major accomplishment there in winning all of the belts but there was not a level of competition at 140 that he fought that would say, okay, yeah, man, this is really, breakout stuff. And in fact, when Terence Crawford did that, he didn't win Fighter of the Year at the time that he became undisputed because, and this is something that had come from Bomac himself, the Boxing Writers Association of America said, look, yeah, it's a big accomplishment, but we don't like the level of competition. Julius Ndungo, Victor Postal, and Felix Diaz, really didn't float their boat and say, okay, yeah, that's something. Because if you think about it like this, Nonito Donaire's manager, Rachel Donaire, was talking about, people saying that they were hating on Monster Inoue and hoping that Monster Inoue would lose to Steve Fulton Jr. And her point of view was, no, it's the opposite. We actually want Monster Inoue to continue to win because if the person that beats us continues to win, that makes our fight over him look better. Like our fight against him look better. It actually helps us. It helps us if he keeps winning. It just means you lost to a great fighter. But if the fighter goes out there and after they beat you, they go and lose to a bunch of other people, man, that makes that loss look all the worse. So you inverse that, and then you look and say, okay, well, what about Julius Ndungo? And what did Julius Ndungo, the guy he fought for undisputed, do? After that, he got pretty much knocked out by everybody, right? But anyway, and then you look at Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has one loss in his career, which is, obviously what people are pointing to, and that's coming off of a very long layoff against Manny Pacquiao. But if he is able to beat Errol Spence Jr., he would have beaten Errol Spence Jr., Danny Garcia, and Keith Thurman, all of them in their prime and at 147 pounds, and been somebody that has been a 2-time unified champion at 147 pounds. And this is where, when I'm talking with them saying, I don't know about that, dude really kind of got me a little bit and was like, okay, well, what do you think about the fact that Terence Crawford didn't fight Errol Spence? Now, and that is a point that I've made in the past, like, look, man, if you don't take the fight, that says something. Like, people are going to look at the fights that you have and also the fights that you didn't have. And there's a real big glaring hole there in the fact that the reason that Keith Thurman is fighting is fighting Errol Spence is because Keith Thurman would not. And if he takes that fight where Terence Crawford would not fight Errol, Keith Thurman goes in there and has a good fight or beats Errol Spence, hey man, that dude's legacy is cemented and would be a very surprise. And considering the early part of his career, overcoming injuries, coming back and having a successful, a second tenure as a champion, I don't think there's much argument with that. But anyway, you let me know what you think of the conversation. I like talking boxing. This is not necessarily a news story, but it is an interesting conversation I would like to get your opinion on. I'm sure some of y'all are going to call me a hater, but it is what it is. I think it's a pretty solid argument. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.